Hey all, Huck and Carlton at Carlton Carnivores here, and we are on the start of a brand new adventure. We are currently at Denver International Airport at about 10 o'clock at night, because when it is cold and dry and moving into the dead of winter around here, and you are a herper or a botanist, this isn't a great place to be. So what do we do when it's middle of winter and we want to find animals and plants that are alive and well and moving around? You head somewhere tropical. Welcome to Puerto Rico. The Caribbean is a realm of hundreds of islands built by tectonic forces and volcanic activity, surrounding ocean basins that can reach more than 10,000 feet deep and some trenches that can be almost 3 miles in depth. They're home to hundreds of endemic plant and animal species, many of them threatened by the extensive habitat destruction caused by plantations and other human activities in the area. It's home to both the rarest and the smallest snakes on Earth, some of the smallest lizards to walk the planet, and dozens of incredible bird species that you will find nowhere else. So, naturally, even though this was kind of a cruise trip for the whole family, I went down to find wildlife. And so after a short layover in Newark, New Jersey, and flying by the Statue of Liberty right out the airplane window, we headed down to Puerto Rico to catch our cruise ship and head even further south from there to visit several of the islands in the southeastern Caribbean. So, well, of course, I'm going to be looking for as much wildlife out here as I can. My method of transportation between the islands is going to be on a cruise ship. So, unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time on each of the islands, but we'll do our best and see what we can find. And just to give you an idea, starting out, this is our view from the port. Looking out across Puerto Rico, you can see the Highland Mountains off in the distance there, where we have the United States only covered actual rainforest in the national park system. And a lot of endemic species that unfortunately I won't be getting to see on this trip, but there's always another day. Day 2. Welcome to St. Thomas, the U.S. Virgin Islands. St. Thomas is one of the most populated of the U.S. Virgin Islands, and while originally our plan was to try and get over to St. John, a bit of bad information resulted in not being able to do that, so we took a short tour around the island, St. Thomas itself. This island is home to several different species of interesting endemic species, but also a lot of non-native animals and plants as well, and that was most of what we ended up seeing on this particular island. So on the board here we got one of our first reptiles. So one of the anole species. Each of the islands here will have a different endemic species of anole. On St. Thomas I'll have to double check which ones these guys might be. We'll see if we can catch him. So we got here a little baby anole. Once I get the chance I'll probably post on which species it is. The camera doesn't want to focus on him because he's so tiny. So there are 3 or 4 different species that are found on St. Thomas. Each one lives in a slightly different environment, slightly different location on the trees or on the ground. And they often change color a little bit, so they're often referred to as the American chameleons. But there are a couple hundred different species of anole, Anolis genus, and found all across the southern U.S., throughout the Caribbean, and into South America. Adorable, isn't he? Turns out probably all of the anoles that I found on this particular island with probably the same species. The Crested Anole is one of the most common in the area. There's a few others on the island, a couple of them introduced, but the Crested Anole is by far the most common and extremely variable in appearance. So we got tadpoles down in this little pool here. There are a number of different small calling frog species, the coquis, that are found on these islands. No idea how to tell the difference between the tadpoles of them, of course, so I have no idea what species these would be. But there's quite a few in here, and these are almost certain either the coquis or some of the other small native frogs, because the invasive cane toads would be much bigger. Down in the bushes here, you may not be able to see them, but we got brown-throated parakeets poking around right down there. There's at least like 6 or 7 of them in the area.
Let's do a family selfie.
This is the third one we've seen. This is a green iguana. Not native to the islands here, but they're everywhere because they've been introduced. He's just sitting in the bush in the rain.
I've got it.
Get a slightly closer in look on this guy. He's just sitting there in the rain.
This is also still. Oh my God! There's a rainbow.
And then if we pan out, there's our view up here. Rainbow included.
Tree.
So there's 2 there. There's a couple in the tree over there.
And there's one in the tree behind it. If you look right through that little patch of sticks right there.
Yeah, down in there.
There's quite a few in here.
Yeah, there are. This guy, of course, is the best one to see. Just munching away, an adult male. You can see the spines developing on his crest. Now, I, of course, was armed with mostly just my iPhone camera or my dinky little Olympus Tough camera, which don't take great distance close-up photos, but my mother at least has a very nice camera that was able to capture a couple of these really decent photos. Now, the green iguana is native to a lot of Central and South America, and in fact is even native to the very last island that we visited, ironically that we did not see any on, but it is introduced to a lot of the rest of the Caribbean islands, as well as most people know, Florida, where they actually compete with a lot of the other native herbivorous reptile and sometimes bird species, sometimes even small mammals where they occur. The green iguana can grow to almost 6 feet long, so an adult male is a really impressive sight, especially when they start displaying and showing off for the females. They're almost entirely herbivorous, but certainly sometimes when they feel threatened, you wouldn't believe it to look at them as they stand up, puff themselves out, display all their little spikes, and they've got quite a hefty tail whip that can bruise you pretty good. And some sort of thrush species here. Bright eyes, stripes on the wings, on the back. Another species of anole here on the rock. This guy is pretty heavily striped. Not banded like the banded anole in the last video. Good example of the variability of the crested anoles, especially when they're young, as this guy has a bit more of a solid background color than the last one, and a brighter back stripe. And then, of course, I found what I think is an adult female. Doesn't have the crest that the male does, but has a much more uniform brownish coloration and fairly large. Much larger species here. Green-throated Carib hummingbird. Beautiful. What do you got? There it is. One more common species of hummingbird in the Isles. Oh, where'd he go? And of course, while I was trying to video, Mom was busy trying to get decent still photos, so this is the one that she was able to grab. I misspoke in the first little clip featuring this guy. This is actually an Antillean crested hummingbird. These guys are one of the more common species found down here. Males like this one are very brilliant, iridescent, kind of yellow greens and sometimes blues. On their throats are often kind of a blue-purple patch, and of course they're named for the bright green crest that they have on top of their head. The males, it's very distinct and it's brilliant emerald green iridescent color. Females, it's a lot smaller and more kind of a muted coloration. Alright, so now we're back on the ship after a short run around St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. Not as much as I was hoping to find. We didn't really get to stop in any really natural areas because, of course, everything's set up for shop and drop tourists. But hopefully, I mean, it just means we got another trip that we got to take down to this island eventually, since we've got to get back over to St. John at some point. Mom needs her magnet from the national park. Tomorrow will be St. Martin, and hopefully we'll find a few other species there. Welcome to St. Martin, where our welcoming party is a group of at least 3, maybe 4 magnificent frigate birds that are skirting around the sky here. It is exceedingly rainy today, but hopefully that means it'll bring things out of the leaf litter wherever we end up. First of the anoles here on the island. You can tell very different pattern. If I can get any closer. Beautiful stripes. We'll get an idea on this once I get back.
What'd you find?
I don't know.
Alright, so this is an Anguilla Anole, Anolis gingivinus. These guys are kind of a ground shrub animal. They like more open environments, and they are distinguished from the other species on this island by these stripes that are running down their sides and back. Like most anoles, they'll change color depending on their moods or as they're trying to warm up or cool down. So he's actually pretty bright right now, not quite as bright as he was when I grabbed him, but he'll darken to almost solid brown. So we'll let him go and hopefully find a few more things. And your ever-present rock pigeon. We've made a new friend.
Like almost straight out from that.
Trying to record, we've got turtles popping up out here. Seagrass beds right off the docks here, so the turtles are feeding on the seagrass. Problem is they pop up for barely a second before they go back down. However, by going fishing, we did manage to glimpse some other watery wildlife rather close up.
I got fish.
What kind of fish is this?
You got a picture?
Oh,
That's a species of snapper of some kind.
nice little snapper grunt there.
Yep. I'm not sure if it's a grunt or a snapper. I think it's a grunt.
Fish.
Alright, video.
This is a parrotfish. Can't believe he didn't bite off anything here. Ow. Try that again.
Yeah, that's different.
Nice, pretty parrotfish too, actually. One thing you don't want to do is get your fingers anywhere near their mouth.
Little friend doesn't help.
You just gotta get out of the corner of his mouth here. Almost there. Okay, dude, hold on. Okay. with how these guys eat coral.
Watch that. Okay.
Real pretty guy. Bleeding a bit, so we'll get him back in the water here. Hi. After our short attempt at fishing on the pier, we continued down the beach. Along the entire length of the beach, at least once we were past the houses, you would find stretches of beach morning glory, which helps stabilize the dunes, the sand along the shoreline, as well as a lot of other wildflowers. We kept poking around looking for some other places to fish, and actually found a either freshwater or kind of brackish drainage ditch that looked promising. Out in the water here, we got a common gallinule swimming along, recognized by the bright red patch on its forehead if it turns back our way. I don't know if it will. These guys are in the rail family, so they look like ducks, but they're completely unrelated. Just right here in the tree, we got multiple green iguanas, at least two just right here. I doubt I'll be able to catch one, but we might be able to get close enough to get a closer video. Let's see. Yep, there's that guy there. And then that one there. And then there's a big guy in the bushes back there. You can see his tail just between the branches. And just like on St. Thomas, green iguanas are not native to St. Martin. We got something good here. He's kind of brackish. Oh, tilapia.
That's a pretty big tilapia.
Yeah, it is.
Give me a picture, Hawkins.
Uh-huh. Nice. The tilapia aren't native, but they're pretty much everywhere in any brackish or fresh water. These are probably what the tarpon are feeding on out here. Alright, so the lizard running through there is one of the native amoebas. I'll have to double check which species on this island. They're one of the biggest ground lizards out here. I have seen Anolis pogus, the ground anole, over here too. And while I was unable to catch one of these guys because they are ridiculously fast and hard to get to in the undergrowth, once again Mom came through with managing to capture a photo of an adult later on. As juveniles, these guys have kind of stripes along their bodies and bars along their sides. As they get older, that fades away and instead is kind of replaced by this spotting across the lower back and tail, and then an even coloration around the shoulders. This is the closest I'll probably get to one of these guys. This is one of the amoebas on St. Martin. Got ourselves another little anole. This is probably another gingivinus, although with the tailor side stripes, it's a possibility it could be pogus. Needs to mature a little more. We'll double check in a sec. The distinct stripes on these guys are usually fairly reliable on this island, although it's entirely possible that hybrids could occur too. There's a really big one. Here we go, proper size. Nice modeling on the tail and the back. Very light lateral stripe. And a mild dorsal vein. We'll let him go shortly. And we got this guy right in the middle of the shed. See him losing all his skin. Sometimes these guys eat their shed skins, other times they just leave it in pieces all over the place. No focus on the lizard, thank you, camera. Cool little guy. A lot of these are gingivinus. I'm not sure I've found any pogus yet, actually. So I may have spoken too soon. This guy's got a very dark dorsal pattern and very pale otherwise, so this might actually be a young male Anolis pogus losing all his pattern. These are the ground anoles. These guys like to live in really dense bushes and forest. They're very similar to the other species, of course, but the males tend to lose most of their pattern. Females turn kind of blotchy. And they don't get quite as big as the other species. He's got these really cool bands that have been kind of forming and disappearing on his tail. Very nice. So flittering around in the treetops right here is one of the tiniest doves I think I have ever seen. There's one literally right there on the branch. I mean, he's no bigger than most parakeets. There's the second one. Over here, there he is. Trying to identify them in a little bit here. Red wings. They're just sitting on the bench the other way. Very cute. So looking on this rock, check out all the crabs that are out here. There's one. He's just wandering about by the surf. Little blue crabs or something. There's one right there, up on the rock. They stay just close enough to stay wet, but just far enough away from the water to keep from getting actually swept in when the waves crash over. And for the rarest of birds, the wild chicken. Up on the hillside we see one of the causes of deforestation on these islands.
10.
Introduced goats. And the white ones will be the easiest to see in the video here. There are also black and brown ones. Alright, so that concludes day 2 of the cruise. So St. Martin, we are all done on there. Still haven't found any of the microgeckos, unfortunately. We just have not visited the right environments. I need somewhere with some good kind of natural forest area with some good leaf litter and rocks on the ground. Hopefully within the next 3 islands that we visit I'll be able to locate some of those guys, since there's different species on every single island that we're going to be visiting. So see you then. Alright, 3rd day on the islands. Welcome to Antigua. We are on a beach escape today, so hopefully there's some natural areas I can poke around in, but we'll see. So we got a needlefish swimming in the harbor here. These guys feed on small organisms at the surface, smaller fish, and they're often bait fish for much larger things. And then, much to my surprise, this beach stop would actually turn out to be the most productive stop on the trip. Right there through the branches we've got a crested hummingbird of some sort. I'll get an ID on him shortly. He's kind of sitting on the branch there. Big old tuft on his head. Some really interesting looking millipedes out here under some of these logs that I'm able to flip. Bright yellow and white and black stripes. And I'd actually end up finding these millipedes under almost every single log or other piece of debris that I would flip. I have no idea what species they are, but they were quite large, up to 4 or 5 inches long, and with brilliant yellow backs that kind of faded into blue and then striped with black. I also ended up finding a number of really interesting fungus species. No idea what species these are either, but they were growing all over the wet wood, all over the place, probably because this was quite a rainy period compared to normal. I'm not a fungus guy, but these certainly look like the turkey tails in North America. Not sure exactly what they are, but they're still a cool shelf fungus that are growing out of the log here. Those are beautiful. A sign of Bananaquits and another bird I'm not entirely sure of yet. I've been able to see him. We got what appear to be these little land snails here. Not coming out right now because the rain's all stopped, but there's a whole bunch of little shells out in the forest here. Also, that other bird that you can hear is a Carib Grackle. Yellow warbler in the branches here. I'm pretty sure it's a yellow warbler. Beautiful guy. And finally, one of the first lizards here. Two anoles on this island, Anolis leachii and Anolis wattsi. I'll try and catch this guy, see if I can tell which one this is. So I briefly had him in hand, and it was an Anolis wattsi, Watts's anole, but then he managed to jump right out of my hand. And over here we have a young hermit crab crawling about. Oops. See if we can get him to come out at all. If I can quit dropping his shell. There we go. And he hides again. Alright, managed to catch another one. This is another young Watts's anole. This is the smaller species. It lives on the island of Antigua here. As these guys grow up, a lot of them will kind of lose the striping more or less, and the males will turn kind of bicolored. Females will remain a little more mottled. But at this age, they've got all these beautiful little stripes on them. And there's quite a few around here, but they're proving rather difficult to catch compared to the last few species. Running over some slabs here, and there are just swarms of hermit crabs under them. Not quite the things I was hoping to find under here, but cool nonetheless. See what else might be. I'm still hoping for some geckos. There's at least one species of dwarf gecko on Antigua, Spherodactylus elegantulus, and I haven't found any really good habitat for them yet. I found some wild cockroaches out here. Believe it or not, these are the first cockroaches I've actually seen in the wild. Most ones I'm used to are the ones that I buy for the lizards at home. Put him back. There he goes. So while I was turning over the board, I attracted a very, very large Anolis leachii, Leach's anole, down. This is an adult male. You can't see it now, but when he came down, he was bright gray and green with dark spots all over the place. Awesome, definitely found an adult of the species finally. He was huge too, full size. And we have here one of the biggest adult crabs I've ever seen. Look at the size of him. Big old guy. Come here for a second. Hold on. He's got a good grip on that. Look at the colors on him and the shell that he's chosen. It's a big land snail shell, it looks like. Oh, there he goes. He's gonna try and find a way to grab me so that he can get me to let go of him. Yep, he's trying to push at my hand. Look at you. Cool guy. There you go. Alright, so we have here an almost adult male Watts's anole, Anolis wattsi. Look at those blue streaks on his face and yellow-orange on his nose. He's also got a pretty bright yellow dewlap. These guys can change to pretty fair green, but he's sitting at brown at the moment. Almost caught a young adult Leach's anole, but missed him. Hopefully I'll get another chance shortly. Glad I'm finally finding some closer to adult animals to show proper colors. Beautiful little guy. And watch as he runs away. Zoom, there he goes. Run, run. At this point it was only about lunchtime, so I headed back to where the rest of the family was on the beach, and just in time as the main storm for the day decided to sweep through right about then. And the heavens have opened, and it feels fantastic. Tropical rain is something completely different from anything you'll experience in the US, just about anywhere. I mean, even the birds don't care. They're still flying about, they're calling. It's fantastic. And right out here, Caribbean Sea. And another friend, beach dog. Beach dogs everywhere. One of the beach finds here Holly found. Old washed up sponge. Elkhorn sponge, something like that. It's a really curious animals too, and when you feel it, it's all squishy and pliable. So no surprise that's where we got our original like kitchen and bath sponges from. But better to use synthetics probably and leave these guys be out in the wild, unless you know it's coming from a sustainable harvest. Got up here another adult male Leach's Anole. He's sitting on the branch, getting bright green again. No way we'll be able to catch him way up there though, he's like 20 feet up. I never did catch any of the leeches and anoles that I found on this or any of the other islands where they've been introduced, but sometimes when you can just sit back and capture some natural behavior like this guy showed me, it makes it all worth it anyway. Around the corner we have a Zenaida dove. These guys are relatively similar to like the native US mourning doves, but a little bit larger, and they've got this really pretty like purplish sheen on the back of their neck. And a little black dot right below basically where their ears are. Also seen today were some more of the common ground doves, which are like a quarter the size of those guys at best. Smallest doves I've ever seen. Fantastic habitat though. It's a bit of an accidental thing, but one of the wattsis and anoles dropped its tail. You can see it twitching right here, basically. And so that will twitch and move around to distract the predator while the lizard tries to get away. And luckily it's not something that hurts them too much. They'll grow it back fairly quickly. can see him here. He didn't lose the whole tail either. It's a very long tail, so he'll grow that back fairly quick and be alright soon. So we'll let him go on the trunk here. Gotta keep my hand up here apparently because the camera doesn't want to focus, but one of the land snails about 6 feet up a tree. So I finally found on the island here our first microgecko of the trip. This is Spherodactylus elegantulus, the one native species to Antigua. Really dark guys, they don't have a whole lot of pattern, and unfortunately the adult has dropped its tail. The baby is still whole. You can see they barely fit between my fingers, and they don't get much bigger than this at all. They are so small. I'll see if I can get another one, an adult maybe, that has its tail still. So happy I finally found them though. Just look at how tiny these guys are. Oh my god. It's so cute. Alright, we'll let them go, see if I can find a full adult. Got them just hanging on my finger here, so maybe a little bit better look at them. See, the babies just start out so tiny. So little pattern on these guys. Antigua least gecko. Look at that face. Grow your tail back soon, okay, guy? Get back like the little baby there. Whoops, there he goes. Alright, here we go. Here's an adult with a full tail. Look at those huge scales on his tail, too. Beautiful little micro geckos. This is full size. They don't get any bigger than this, really. Maybe 2.5 inches, 5-6 centimeters long. And they just live down here. I mean, where I'm finding these guys is under a bunch of old boards and logs and stuff. They just live down in the leaf litter eating small insects. And turns out they might have really been all over the place. I just didn't spot them fast enough. But here we go. Found our micro geckos. Hey, you. They have almost iridescent scales, too. And that little face. Alright, whoa. Hold on. Here we go. Okay, you can sit there. That's fine. You are so cute. And there he goes. On the pant leg. He has no idea he's on the pant leg, of course. He thinks he's somewhere safe. Look at that face. They are one of the cutest animals I have ever seen. Alright. Main find for the island, other than maybe a worm snake, crossed off the list. Alright, we got Bananaquits up in the tree here. These are very common Antillean bird. Bright yellow underbelly with kind of black and white striped heads. All over the place out here. Alright, and here's one of the other best species that I was hoping to find today. This is the turnip-tailed gecko. This is the largest gecko species native to the Antilles. They're found almost all over the place. This guy's actually got a regrown tail here. You can see where the break was at some point. They're named turnip-tailed because when they mature, eventually that tail expands into kind of a fat turnip shape, particularly in the males. It's where they store fat. Nope, you're not getting anywhere, dude. Not yet. So these guys grow to almost 20 centimeters long. So this is a moderately sized one. Beautiful little colors, though. Some of those spots, actually all those little orange spots are actually basically lizard mites, so not something that this guy actually naturally has as color, but this mottled pattern that they have is very much their natural color. And you can see on their feet there, they are a leaf-toed gecko, spread out so they can climb very smooth surfaces. I only barely caught this guy because I managed to kind of fold him between a couple of pieces of board out here and was able to reach in and grab him before I lost him. So, absolutely beautiful find. Looks like Antigua might be the best island so far. Alright, so we'll let him go. And you'll see when he goes down, they run really quick. Zoom, there he goes. And they'll disappear. And this is what happens when you find a turnip-tailed gecko and don't quite manage to grab the gecko. Not exactly the result I wanted, but this is a natural behavior for them and they do it quite readily. Tail will then twitch to distract the predator and the gecko gets away. There was then a brief lull in exciting reptile finds, although certainly plenty of interesting flowering plants all over the place. I explored a couple of old, broken down foundations that used to hold houses at some point. Perhaps they were wiped away in the last hurricane a couple years ago. A few more anoles found here and there, mostly Anolis wattsi, and then found some more geckos. Alright, we got yourselves a second turnip-tailed gecko with an original tail. You can see all the little spikes and bumps and the stripes going down there. This guy's a little bit darker too. Might actually be a female. Hi! Look at those eyes. You are beautiful. Alright, we'll let you go back under your tin here. There you go. Run, run. Alright, so this might be one of the most exciting flips yet. We have under this thing big tarantula that's hiding under. And two more adult Spherodactylus elegantulus with a little bit more bright coloration. These guys both have full tails too. You can see that iridescent mottled color. A little bit of orange on the tail. You guys are beautiful. Look at you. Alright. So we'll get these guys put back in a minute. Undoubtedly, these guys were some of the most exciting finds on the trip and mark the second species of dwarf gecko that I've actually seen in the wild. Spherodactylus macrolepis being the first on Tortola. And while I have several species that I keep at home as pets, there's nothing quite like seeing them in the wild. Alright, so we're nearing the end of the Antiguan cruise day here, and well, I'd say it's been the best one so far. Both of the main native gecko species, tarantula, both of the native anole species with a good feeding video. I might have enough to actually have to split this into two separate videos, so we'll see what comes tomorrow, but otherwise you might see a short outro in a little bit here. Now, while I was busy poking around in the trees, I did lend my underwater camera to my family, so you can't visit the Caribbean without going underwater at least once and seeing the wildlife that's on the reefs, which, keep in mind, the Caribbean reefs, just like many around the world, are under a lot of pressure from changing ocean temperatures. So, got to enjoy them while they're here. Hopefully you can figure out some ways to save them, and remember that they are just as valuable as all of the wildlife on land that's being threatened by human development in these areas. Because while it is kind of cliche to go down to the Caribbean and look at all the wildlife on the coral reefs, they are hot spots of diversity and endemic species, and should be valued as just as great a treasure. Alright, so I think we found quite a bit enough that I'm going to have to split this trip into two separate episodes, so we'll have to see you guys for the rest on the next one. Just remember, if you guys would like to see more videos like this, want to help support, please consider joining on Patreon at www.patreon.com/hcarlton. If you want to see more videos, short clips, photos, and things like that, you can always find me at Carlton Carnivores on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. If you have a question, feel free to leave one in the comment below. Any thoughts, feel free. You can reach me always also at the website, carltoncarnivores.com. And until the second half of the trip, this is Sock and Carlton at Carlton Carnivores.